This girl was scrolling through a dating app, just like any other day. Suddenly, a profile caught her eye. The profile picture was just a wheelchair. The guy was 29 years old and living about 30 miles away. For some reason, she felt a spark and swiped right. After swiping for a while, she eventually drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Ji-yoon woke up to a flood of messages from the guy with the wheelchair photo. Curiosity got the better of her, and she asked him why he chose that as his profile picture. His response was cryptic. "It's the thing that saved my life, so I'll be living with it for the rest of my days." Ji-yoon was totally confused and asked him what he meant by that. But instead of explaining, he just sent a smiley face and went silent. Later, during her break at work, she messaged him to apologize for being nosy. She then opened up and admitted that she was also in a wheelchair, which was why she was so curious. He immediately messaged back, calling it pure destiny. He claimed he was in a wheelchair too. From that point on, the two of them grew closer and closer. Even though they hadn't met in person, it felt like they had known each other for 100 years. You see, Ji-yoon used to be a police officer. A tragic car accident changed everything, leaving her paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair for life. Nowadays, she only handles light duties at the police station, but she is still incredibly hardworking. She works out every single day. Even though she is 30, her body is still fit, toned, and honestly very attractive. But even the strongest woman gets lonely and craves some warmth, which is why she turned to dating apps to find her catch. The app has a lot of automated search features. She had talked to someone once before, but the second he found out she was in a wheelchair, he blocked her instantly. That experience made her very hesitant and shy about dating again. But now, here was this guy also in a wheelchair, and they vibed perfectly. She truly cherished this connection. It didn't take long for them to get serious, and he eventually asked her to come out and meet him that weekend. Ji-yoon was, of course, over the moon, absolutely ecstatic. The weekend arrived in a flash. After picking out the perfect outfit, she drove out to the designated meeting spot in the suburbs to soak in some nature. She didn't even know what he looked like, but she was still incredibly excited because of his voice. She pictured him as a warm, kind soul. Over the phone, he told her he had found a swimming pool that looked just like a vast ocean. Following his directions, Ji-yoon navigated her wheelchair down a narrow path until she reached a large black gate. She went a bit further and, sure enough, there was the pool. The guy was already there, waiting in his wheelchair. He greeted her very politely, saying how happy he was to meet her. Looking at the goofy, smitten smile on her face, you could tell she was very satisfied with the man standing well, sitting in front of her. He was handsome and muscular. What girl could resist that? Then, he invited her to come down into the pool with him. Ji-yoon looked around but couldn't see any ramp or path to get down there. She curiously asked him how he managed to get down. Suddenly, without warning, he stood right up and started walking toward her. Ji-yoon felt something was horribly wrong. Panic set in and she started screaming. Seeing how terrified she was, he stopped and apologized. He backed away and explained that he had lied about being in a wheelchair just because he wanted a chance to meet her. He was afraid she'd feel insecure and reject him if he told the truth. Despite the lie, Ji-yoon looked at the guy. He was wearing glasses, looked intellectual, and didn't seem like a bad person. She let her guard down. He walked over, picked her up, and carried her down into the bone-dry pool. He held her in his arms, letting her slowly experience the sensation of swimming. Ji-yoon actually felt like she was swimming. She could almost hear the sound of water in her ears. She closed her eyes, instinctively moving her arms to embrace a feeling she hadn't felt in so long. At that moment, she was deeply grateful for the man in front of her. Since her accident, she hadn't been this physically close to any man. The fire in her heart began to burn bright. She couldn't help herself and kissed him on the cheek. As it turned out, he had also fallen for her at first sight. Ji-yoon thanked him for not looking down on her disability. Under that intense, heated atmosphere, one thing led to another. Afterward, Ji-yoon asked him to go grab her a bottle of water. But she waited and waited until her throat was parched, and there was still no sign of him. She reached for her phone to call him, but it was gone. She dragged herself out of the pool to look around, and her wheelchair had completely vanished too. The only thing left behind was a single pair of shoes. With no other choice, she had to crawl over, put the shoes on, and start dragging herself forward using only her hands. Every inch was a struggle. Since they were in a remote suburb, far from the city, there was no way she could just wait for someone to come and save her. With her wheelchair gone, her only choice now was to crawl all the way back to her car. As she was dragging herself across a bridge, she happened to look down and saw her wheelchair. It had been tossed right over the side. That absolute scumbag. At first, she thought he was just a thief who wanted her phone and her chair, but now it was clear. She had crossed paths with a total psychopath. She screamed for help at the top of her lungs, but she was surrounded by nothing but mountains. Not a soul was in sight. By the time she was completely exhausted, she spotted a puddle on the ground. She was so parched that she didn't even care if the water was filthy. She just leaned down and drank desperately. Jiaun couldn't help but mock herself. Here she was, a police officer, getting played like a fool by some random guy. It was a bitter pill to swallow. She made a vow right then and there. She was going to catch this piece of trash no matter what. Finally, she managed to crawl back to the parking area. But because she had dragged herself such a long distance, her arms were shaking uncontrollably. When she tried to drive, she lost control and plunged the car straight into a ditch. No matter how hard she tried, the car was stuck. She had to use every ounce of strength left to climb out and continue dragging her heavy body along the road. Luckily, a kind driver eventually spotted her and gave her a ride to her friend Mach 1's house. Mach 1 was shocked to see her, asking what on earth happened to leave her in such a pathetic state. But Jiaun was too spent to even whisper a word. She was covered head to toe in mud. Being a cop and getting lured into a trap like this was so humiliating that Jiaun couldn't even bring herself to report the crime to her own department. She had to swallow the rage and handle it herself. She used her friend's phone to call her own number, and a woman picked up. It was a shop owner who said a customer had left the phone behind at her store. Jiaun immediately downloaded the dating app again to log into her account and track down the guy's info. But to her horror, she discovered the account had already been deleted. When it clicked, this guy wasn't just a freak, he was a professional. Then she remembered her friend, Kim Sum. Sum was a tech genius at an app company and was actually the person who created this very app. Jiaun knew that if anyone could dig through the data and find that monster, it was her. Meanwhile, a poor cat had just been hit by a car. It was lying on the pavement, crying out in agony. Kim Sum heard the cries and went down to find the cat gasping for its last breaths. She immediately called animal rescue, but after hearing the situation, the person on the other end acted totally indifferent. They just said, "It's probably fine," and told her they'd get there whenever they could. After hanging up, Kim Sum watched the cat suffer, feeling completely helpless. Just then, she received a message. She ran back to her room, grabbed a white towel and rushed back to the cat. She laid the towel over its body. Then she pulled out a box cutter. With her left hand, she pressed down firmly on the cat's neck. There was one final agonizing cry, and then silence. Turns out, she had just asked an online friend what he would do in this situation. He told her to just do whatever she felt like doing. She thought the most merciful thing was to end its life. While most people would think that's incredibly cruel, this online stranger actually agreed with her. He said it was better because it ended the cat's suffering. This made Kim Sum feel like this man was someone special, someone who truly understood her. Before long, the man asked for her location. He wanted to meet in person. After a moment of hesitation, Kim Sum finally sent him her GPS coordinates. A little while later, he drove up to meet her. The reason she felt comfortable meeting him was that she was the one who invented this dating app in the first place. Kim Sum had been an IT prodigy since she was a kid. Back in high school, she was already building intelligent robots, which led to her being scouted by this major app company. Now, she's the head of the technical department, the mastermind behind this dating app. The app uses an algorithm to match people based on their specific needs, and its success rate is insane. Countless couples have actually gotten married through it. However, the police have recently discovered a dark pattern. Several women have been harmed or gone missing after using the app. It seems someone is using the platform as a hunting ground for crimes. The police reached out to the company, hoping to get access to their database, but the director refused, citing customer privacy. The security is so tight that even Kim Sum can't access the raw data on her own. There is only one person, someone known as Key, who knows the true identity of every single user. After digging into the system, Kim Sum discovered something chilling. 12 different accounts were all pinging from the exact same location. This was proof that one single person was operating all of them. But here's the weird part: the women talking to these accounts were always the ones making the first move. The conversations would get longer over time, and eventually, their GPS locations would overlap, meaning they were meeting up in the real world. Some couldn't read the chat logs, so she had no idea what kind of psychological tricks this person was using to make these women so obsessed. Determined to unmask the culprit, some decided to friend all 12 accounts at once. One of those accounts belonged to the man she had just met. She expected a creepy, middle-aged guy, but instead, out walked Yuno, a tall, handsome, and highly intellectual-looking man. Some didn't beat around the bush. She told him straight up that the police were looking for him. Yuno calmly denied having anything to do with the cat's death. Some admitted she was fascinated by him. To prove he wasn't a threat, Yuno pointed out a nearby security camera that could act as his witness and invited her to grab a bite to eat, so he could tell her his side of the story. Once they were in the car, Some revealed a huge secret. She was the one who actually invented the app. Yuno introduced himself properly, seemingly unfazed that his cover might be blown. He then drove her directly to a hotel parking lot. Sum's face went pale. She told him firmly that she only wanted to talk and didn't want things to go any further, asking him to respect her boundaries. Like a total gentleman, Yuno agreed and offered to take her home instead. But then, Sum made a surprising move. She asked to see his office. Inside, the room was filled with design tools and blueprints. Nothing seemed out of place. Ever since she ended the cat's life, Sum hadn't shown a single shred of emotion. She confessed to Yuno that she suffered from a condition similar to autism. She doesn't seek social interaction and lacks empathy. While others feel joy, sadness, or hate, she feels almost nothing. That's why her face is always as cold as ice. Surprisingly, Yuno seemed like a perfect match for her. They played the piano together and talked for hours. At one point, while sharpening a pencil, he pulled out an electric sharpener and a manual pocket knife, asking her which one she preferred. Sum chose the knife, saying it felt more practical. Without hesitation, Yuno gave it to her as a gift. The reason he didn't attack her was because he was intrigued. She was the only girl who didn't immediately fall for his charms. This predator never liked to use force. He wanted his prey to surrender to him voluntarily. The plan worked. The very next day, Sum looked at the knife and immediately thought of Yuno. She messaged him, but he left her on read. Sum, the girl who supposedly had no feelings, found herself checking her phone every few seconds. Just last night, he was replying at lightning speed, so why the silence now? The uncertainty started eating at her. She couldn't focus on work, and even at home, her mind was drifting. She lay in bed, tossing and turning all night, listening to their old voice messages. She had no idea she was being masterfully manipulated. He knew exactly how to pull her strings. Finally, Sum stepped away from her work to track his active status, still unsure if this man was a real killer. Just then, she got a message from her best friend. She rushed over and found out that Ji-yoon had been targeted. It turned out Ji-yoon had met the same psychopath through the app. He didn't just scam her. He nearly left her for dead in the mountains. Ji-yoon described his profile and his wheelchair photo, begging Sum to help her track the bastard down. But Sum had to give her the hard truth. She was powerless. Aside from the director and a mysterious figure named Ki, no one in the company had access to that level of private user data. They were stuck and they had to find another way to lure him out. Meanwhile, Mok-won headed to the restaurant to help Ji-yoon get her phone back. But as she talked to the shop owner, she got a weird vibe. The woman seemed like she was hiding something. Mok-won didn't waste any time. She arranged for someone to stake out the place. Sure enough, a lead popped up. The lookout reported that the shop owner told a mysterious man that someone had already come for the phone. The lookout managed to snap a photo of the guy, but unfortunately, it was only from behind. By the time Ji-yoon and Mok-won told him to get a shot of his face, the man had already vanished into thin air. Back with Kim Sum, she finally got that long-awaited text from Yuno. He asked if she was free to grab dinner the next night. Sum didn't even hesitate. She replied immediately that she was free. A goofy, smitten smile crept across her face, looking exactly like Ji-yoon did when she first fell for his charms. Right around that time, another online friend named Hein messaged her. Hein supposedly struggled with the same social issues as Sum and asked if he could borrow a book from her. He sent over his location, and as luck would have it, his place was right on the way to her meeting spot with Yuno. When Sum arrived at the location, she found herself in front of a building under renovation. She messaged him to say she was at the door. Knowing that people with their condition are often terrified of face-to-face interaction, she didn't think much of it when she saw a shadow lurking behind the door. She slowly walked up, intending to just hand over the book and be on her way. Sum thought she was just meeting a friend. She saw his silhouette behind the glass and tried to confirm it was him. He didn't say a word. He just walked straight toward the door. Sum stepped forward, planning to drop the book and leave quickly to respect his space. But in the next split second, her heart stopped. The door swung open, and she was violently yanked inside. A man grabbed her, using his strength to overpower her. Sum was paralyzed with fear, her entire body shaking as she realized she couldn't fight him off. But in a moment of sheer desperation, she found an opening, shoved him as hard as she could, and bolted. She didn't get more than a few steps before he lunged and tackled her again. He pinned her down, clearly intending to assault her. As she struggled to get away, he threw her back onto the ground and grabbed her by the legs, dragging her toward him. The more she screamed for help and fought back, the more it seemed to fuel his twisted excitement. Just as he was about to make his move, Sum gathered every bit of strength she had and bit down hard on his ear. While he was howling in pain, Sum scrambled to her feet and searched for an exit. She managed to reach a door and lock it just as he reached for the handle. But he didn't give up. He headed for another entrance. Adrenaline pumping, Sum ran for her life toward the upper floors, trying to lock every door before he could get through. Her legs felt like jelly. She screamed out, asking who he was and why he was doing this, only to realize this man wasn't Hein at all. Watching him leave to find another way in, she had no choice but to keep moving and find a place to hide. Below, she could see him carrying a red flashlight, casually whistling as he paced in front of the doors like a predator. Taking advantage of a moment when he wasn't looking, she crept up the stairs. But the second she reached the second floor, he appeared right outside the glass window. Some held her breath, slowly backing away, desperately looking for another escape route. But he was right on her heels. Some made a break for the rooftop. She reached the balcony and screamed for help at the top of her lungs. But her cries only gave away her position. The man immediately headed her way. With nowhere left to run, she kept moving. When she realized the nightmare was even worse. It wasn't just one guy. There were two of them hunting her down. The attackers had clearly planned this out. They swept the area with tubular lights, searching for their prey. Some spotted a door sealed with plastic sheeting. She pulled out the knife Yuno had given her, sliced a hole in the plastic, and carefully slipped inside. Just when she thought she might be safe, she heard footsteps approaching again. She took off running one last time, finally ducking into a restroom and slamming the door shut. She locked it and let out a sigh of relief, only to be jolted by the sound of a toilet flushing in the next stall. Someone else was in there, but they didn't seem to realize she was outside. With the situation becoming life or death, she hammered on the door, then scrambled into the stall next to it, locking herself in. She climbed onto the toilet and lifted her legs up, making herself invisible. Outside the stall, she could hear the muffled voices of the two men talking to each other. As it turned out, these creeps didn't just stumble upon her, they had been invited there by someone. And it wasn't just two of them. There was a whole group of men involved in some kind of twisted game. Luckily, the guy outside thought the stall was empty and walked away. Or so she thought. Kim Sum waited for a while, listening to the silence before she finally dared to stand up. But the second her feet touched the floor, the man outside started cursing. He hadn't left at all. He saw the door was locked from the inside and realized someone was hiding. So he just pretended to leave to lure her out. The guy went absolutely berserk, hammering on the door and screaming that she had made an appointment and better not back out now. When she didn't answer, he lost his mind. He started violently shaking the entire portable restroom structure. Within seconds, he managed to rip a massive gap in the door. He squeezed through the opening and launched himself at her. No words spoken, just pure aggression. But during the struggle, he suddenly started making a gurgling sound and clutched his neck. Blood began gushing out like a fountain. In self-defense, Kim Sum had used the knife Yuno gave her to slice his carotid artery. Then, she didn't stop, she gave him another deep stab for good measure. The man struggled to open the door and stumbled out, but within moments, he collapsed on the ground, twitching as he bled out. Right then, the lights in the restroom flickered on, and 3 more men walked in. Seeing the carnage in front of them, they turned tail and ran for their lives. As they fled, they kept shouting that she was the one who invited them and that they had run into a literal psycho. When they noticed a camera in the room and assumed she had set the whole thing up as a death trap. Kim Sum, however, showed zero emotion. She calmly walked out, called the police, and then sent a text to Yuno. She told him she'd have to miss their dinner date and apologized for the inconvenience. Because it was a clear case of self-defense, the authorities didn't charge her. The doctors told her to stay in the hospital for observation, but she secretly slipped out and went home. Once she was back, she started talking to her AI robot, the one she created herself. She told the robot everything that happened. For someone with her condition, facing real people is terrifying. To her, communicating with an AI is 1,000 times better than dealing with human beings. The next day, she went to work just like any other day, wearing that same blank, expressionless mask. The man from the night before had died from blood loss, and while all her colleagues were gossiping and reeling from the news, they couldn't believe how calm she was. But then again, Kim Sum couldn't even begin to understand why they were so worked up. Her director pulled her aside and told her that, based on what they knew, all the men at that building had been lured there by an account named Hein. These men all had eccentric, basically perverted hobbies, and they viewed Kim Sum as nothing more than a character in a game. The director didn't want to get into the messy details. She just told Sum to understand that those were bad men and leave it at that. But even though Sum was the victim of a calculated setup, the company still refused to reveal the true identity of the Hein account, all in the name of protecting user privacy. Sum decided she was going to handle things her own way. Just then, she got a text from Yuno asking when they could finally meet. She told him about the trouble she had just been through. He immediately sent her a voice note to comfort her, telling her that if she needed anything, he would be there in a heartbeat. His voice actually made her feel a rare spark of warmth. Later, Sum got a message from Ji Ayun, who said she had finally tracked down the man who tricked her at the pool. Sum went over to Ji Ayun's place and found out that Ji Ayun had hired a private investigator to stake out that shop and take secret photos of the suspect. Unfortunately, they only caught his back, so they couldn't see his face. They began to suspect that the wheelchair scammer and the Hein account who lured Sum to the building were the same person. They needed to find a way to make him show his face again so they could catch him red-handed. On her way home, Yuno called her. He said he had seen the news and asked if she was hurt, acting deeply concerned. He insisted on coming over to see her. Since Sum was feeling particularly down, she invited him to her office. She told him every detail of what she had gone through. As it got late, Yuno told her she needed to rest and stayed behind for a bit to talk to her AI robot. The next morning, Sum asked the robot what Yuno had said to it. The AI replied that Yuno told it he didn't want her to be lonely, and that she was the first person to ever make his heart flutter. Hearing those words from the AI moved Kim Sum deeply for the first time in forever. She actually had a genuine smile on her face. But then, the AI revealed something chilling. Yuno had typed out several messages that he never actually sent. He didn't realize that the second you type something into the app, the AI logs it, even if you hit delete. The content he had typed was graphic, disturbing, and absolutely disgusting. But instead of being horrified, Kim Sum smiled even wider. In her twisted logic, she interpreted that dark, raw intensity as a sign of his overwhelming passion for her. The next day, she invited Yuno to her home. They acted like a couple that had been together for years, hugging, playing, and laughing. Sum had no idea that she was inviting a wolf into her home. At one point, while they were playing, Yuno suddenly threw his shirt over her head. Sum was still laughing, thinking it was just a game, but she couldn't see that his hands were already around her throat, ready to end her life. But for some reason, the psychopath had a change of heart. During a break, Yuno secretly asked the AI what Kim Sum liked to eat for breakfast. While she was brushing her teeth, he played the part of the perfect boyfriend and prepared a meal for her. Sum felt like she was in heaven, finally receiving the care she had always craved. They officially became a couple, took some time off work, and spent their days watching the sunrise together. But the peace didn't last. One night, while Sum was asleep, Yuno went back to talk to the AI. He felt incredibly smug when the AI told him he was the first person Sum had ever invited over. However, things took a turn when Sum later told him that the AI had shown her all the graphic messages he had typed and deleted. Yuno was absolutely livid. He felt exposed and outsmarted by a machine. That night, he broke into the company and smashed the computer system to pieces. When Sum saw the hidden camera footage of Yuno's violent outburst the next day, she was shocked and completely confused. Meanwhile, Ji-Eun was still on the hunt. She went to see the company CEO, hoping to recover the deleted account info of the man who lured her. But the CEO claimed the system doesn't store deleted data. Undeterred, Ji-Eun used her police connections to find a mysterious, high-level hacker. This guy was a pro at digging up digital ghosts. For the right price, he delivered the goods. The man they were looking for had dozens of fake accounts on the dating app. The hacker even recovered some videos, and the face in them was none other than Yuno. Back at the office, Sum was starting to put the pieces together herself. She recovered her old chat logs with the Hein account and found the very last message he sent before the attack. "I'll be waiting for you." It was a word-for-word match to one of the deleted messages Yuno had typed. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Yuno and Hein were the same person. He hadn't just met her by chance. He had lured her and those perverts to that building so he could watch her get assaulted and humiliated on camera. Sum's world collapsed. She thought she had found her destiny, but she had actually fallen in love with the devil himself. Ji-Eun was reaching the same conclusion. After identifying Yuno's other accounts, she started spamming him with messages, pretending to be obsessed with him. She asked him why he threw her wheelchair away and told him how much she missed him. Yuno, ever the manipulator, made up a lame excuse and said he wanted to meet her again to make it up to her. He sent Ji-Eun a GPS location. Ji-Eun thought she was luring him into a trap to finally arrest him, but Yuno was 10 steps ahead. He knew exactly what she was doing. The address he gave her was a massive demolition site, a place full of rubble and ruins. His plan wasn't to apologize. His plan was to lure Ji-Eun into the shadows and bury her alive under the debris. Ji-Eun arrived at the designated meeting spot all by herself, navigating the rough terrain in her wheelchair. She scanned the area, but of course, there wasn't a soul in sight. Little did she know, Yuno was perched high above in the building, watching her every move like a predator. A construction worker spotted her and told her the area was a restricted demolition zone, urging her to leave immediately. Panicked, she messaged Yuno, but he just lied and said he was out grabbing coffee, telling her to just wait a little longer. By now, the air was thick with dust, making Ji-Eun choke and cough. Luckily, she ran into another worker who pointed her toward a path that supposedly led out. She tried to text Yuno to change the meeting spot, but at that exact moment, the local signal tower was dismantled. Her service went dead. With the massive excavators closing in, she desperately tried to find another way out. Suddenly, someone slammed a heavy door shut behind her. In her rush to escape, her wheelchair got snagged in a crack in the floor. No matter how hard she hammered on the doors, the noise from the machinery outside drowned out her screams. Half the building was already gone. Within minutes, the whole place would be a pile of rubble. Back in the city, Kim Sum and Mach 1 realized they couldn't get through to Ji-Eun. She wasn't home, and her phone was dead. They immediately knew she was in grave danger. Some called the office and pulled some strings to get Ji-Eun's last known GPS coordinates before her app went offline. Inside the ruins, Ji-Eun was spiraling into total despair. The excavators were only a few yards away, and her wheelchair was stuck fast. She knew if she kept forcing it, the motor would burn out. She had no choice but to drag herself out of the chair and onto the dirty ground, trying to pull the wheelchair free with her bare hands. It wouldn't budge. With time running out, she abandoned her only means of mobility and began to crawl forward using nothing but her arms. After 10 agonizing minutes of crawling through the debris, she reached a junction, only to find another dead end. That's when she saw a figure in the distance. She screamed for help, banging on everything she could find, desperately trying to get their attention. She finally reached the next corner and saw something that stopped her heart. A wheelchair was parked there, perfectly fine. On it sat a note that read, "Sorry, the coffee got cold. I'm gonna go buy a hotter one." The realization hit her like a physical blow. She was being played. This was all a sick, twisted game. As she sat there screaming in frustration, she looked down and saw something even more horrific. Severed human fingers poking out from the rubble right in front of her. Terrified and trembling, she scrambled backward. Suddenly, Yuno appeared out of the shadows. He didn't say a word at first, he just tossed her a lollipop. Through her tears, Ji-Eun asked the one question that had been haunting her. Why? Why did you throw me away that day? Yuno's answer was chillingly petty. He said it was because when she asked him for water, she didn't use honorifics, she wasn't polite enough to him. Despite everything, Ji-Eun realized she was still in love with this monster. They say love is blind, and she had come here alone just for one more chance to be with him. Seeing her pathetic devotion, Yuno seemed to soften for a split second. He decided not to kill her with his own hands. Instead, he simply picked up the wheelchair and walked away, leaving her there to sink or swim on her own as the building crumbled. Following the GPS lead, Sum and Makwon arrived at the site and began a frantic search. By now, Ji-Eun was completely spent, lying face down on the dirt as the demolition continued. She had accepted that she was going to die. But then, Sum spotted Ji-Eun's wheelchair abandoned by the road. She grilled the workers, who confirmed they saw a girl inside. Sum sprinted into the ruins, screaming Ji-Eun's name. Finally, she found her, collapsed and breathless. From Ji-Eun's terrifying account, Sum finally got the confirmation she dreaded. The psychopath who lured her friend was the exact same man she thought was her boyfriend. He was the one who set her up at the construction site, watched her get hunted, and then turned around to play the caring partner. But every villain has an origin story. We flash back to when Yuno first downloaded the app. He had matched with a beautiful girl who claimed to be 25. Even though she looked a bit older in her photos, she was exactly his type. He got dressed up, feeling confident, and headed to the hotel room they had booked. But when the door opened, the woman standing there looked at least 30-nothing like her profile. Every villain has an origin story, and Yuno started with a classic case of being catfished. When he first downloaded the app, he matched with a beautiful girl who claimed to be 25. Even though she looked a bit older in her photos, she was exactly his type. He got all dressed up, feeling confident, and headed to the hotel room they had booked. But when the door opened, the woman standing there looked at least 30-nothing like her profile. Despite his disappointment, he tried to be a gentleman and greeted her politely. The woman was thrilled to see a handsome, tall guy walk through the door. But then came the twist. This woman had a dark, twisted side. She had invited another younger guy over without telling Yuno, intending to have some kind of three-way encounter. Yuno felt completely humiliated and scammed. He blew up in a rage, but the woman didn't take him seriously, she just mocked him and laughed in his face. A violent struggle broke out, and in the heat of the moment, he accidentally strangled her to death. His very first online date had turned into a murder scene. Fast forward a few months to an abandoned warehouse. A decaying leg was found sticking out from a pile of debris. When the authorities arrived, the smell was unbearable, and the body was swarming with flies. The rest of the corpse was positioned high up. A police officer had to rappel down on a rope, only to find the decomposing body of a woman around 30 years old. Based on the state of decay, she had been dead for a long time. When they tried to recover the body, her arm literally fell off. It was a total nightmare enough to give anyone a heart attack. Then they found something even more grisly, a human ear stuck to the wall. But this victim wasn't the woman from the hotel. You see, after that first accidental kill, something snapped in Yuno. He became a full-blown psychopath. He convinced himself that any woman using a dating app was trash and deserved to go to hell. He started using the app as a hunting ground, eventually matching with another 30-year-old woman whose profile picture was just a firework. He was drawn to the mystery. Yuno had a talent for making women take the lead, but his targets weren't just random pretty faces. When he finally met this new woman, he realized she was actually one of his co-workers. After an awkward introduction, They skipped the small talk and got down to business. They watched fireworks, had dinner, and grabbed tea. During their conversation, she started venting to him about her unusual relationship with a male engineer at their company. She saw Yuno as a confidant, a friend she could trust. But she had no idea she was talking to her executioner. Yuno killed her because both she and that engineer had once mocked his architectural designs, calling them childish and works of an amateur. After finishing her off, Yuno used her phone to lure the male engineer to that same abandoned warehouse. The engineer arrived with a huge grin on his face, thinking his girlfriend had set up a kinky, adventurous date. Instead, he was ambushed by Yuno. The engineer's ear was sliced clean off during the attack, but miraculously, he managed to survive. That was the ear the police found on the wall. Because it was a surprise attack in the dark, the engineer never saw the killer's face. Back in the present, Yuno was convinced Ji-eun was buried under the rubble of the demolition site. He had no idea she had been rescued. Ji-eun called the police, reporting that she had found a body during the demolition. Soon, the three friends Ji-eun, Kim Sum, and Makwon met up to brainstorm a way to lure the killer out and catch him. At this point, Kim Sum was the only one who knew for a fact that the killer was Yuno. But for some reason, she kept that secret from her friends. The police eventually recovered the body Ji-eun reported. It was the restaurant owner. The autopsy showed deep ligature marks on her neck, but the killer was a pro. He didn't leave a single fingerprint. Some knew this was Yuno's work, yet she stayed silent. Soon after, Yuno actually showed up at Kim Sum's company. It turns out the office was being renovated, and the director had personally invited him to lead the design project. But the director had an ulterior motive. She had used the company's master database to track Yuno's digital footprint. She knew he was the one who lured Kim Sum to that building and invited those creeps. To the director, Kim Sum was the company's most valuable asset. If they lost her, the company would go bankrupt. She confronted Yuno directly, telling him she knew everything. She offered him a deal. Leave Kim Sum alone, and she would keep his secrets. To her surprise, Yuno just gave her a creepy, distorted smile and said, "Kim Sum already knows." He started walking toward her aggressively, but since they were in the middle of a busy office, he couldn't strike. The director was convinced he was lying. If Kim Sum knew the truth, there was no way she would still be dating him. But she wasn't the only one getting suspicious. Makwon was also starting to have serious doubts about what Kim Sum was hiding. Makwon isn't just a loyal friend, she is actually a shaman. With her eerie, supernatural intuition, she knew for a fact that Kim Sum's boyfriend and the monster who attacked Ji-eun were the exact same person. But when she confronted Sum about it, Sum flat out denied it. She was deep in cover-up mode. Knowing Yuno was about to arrive at the office, Sum orchestrated a deceptive plan. She told Makwon to wait on the balcony and snap a photo of her leaving with her boyfriend to show Ji-eun. But instead of walking out with Yuno, Sum walked out with a random male coworker. The trick worked. Ji-eun saw the photo and felt guilty for ever doubting her best friend. But this little stunt only made Yuno's hatred for Makwon burn even hotter. Later that night, Yuno received a new friend request on the app. The profile belonged to a stunning woman, and being the predator he is, he accepted immediately. The stranger messaged him, claiming they already knew each other, and asked for a video call. When Yuno answered, his blood ran cold. Looking back at him on the screen was the female coworker he had brutally murdered. He couldn't believe his eyes. He had ended her life and dumped her body himself. Shaking with fear, he demanded to know if she was a twin sister, but he quickly hung up and started frantically scrubbing his phone. Suddenly, another video call request popped up. He answered only to see the face of the first girl he killed in the hotel room. Yuno completely lost it. He smashed his phone in a blind panic, wondering if the ghosts of his victims had actually come back for revenge. Despite the dozens of women who had vanished after meeting Yuno, Ji-eun was the only one who got away with her life. But tonight, the horror came home. As she lay in bed, she heard a faint sound and sat up, scanning the dark room. Suddenly, her door swung open on its own. She called out, hoping it was just her mother or sister, but no one answered. Instead, something small was tossed into the room from the shadows. Ji-eun grabbed her phone to call the police just as the door slammed shut. She crept out of bed to investigate and found a lollipop lying on the floor. Her heart dropped. It was his signature, the same kind of lollipop he threw at her when she was trapped in the rubble. He had been inside her house. Ji-eun rushed to Kim Sum, begging for help with the investigation. By this time, the private investigator hired by Makwon had already broken into Yuno's house and found a drawer full of burner phones he used for his fake accounts. But even when these phones were placed right in front of her, Sum continued to shield him, claiming she didn't recognize any of it. Frustrated and defeated, her friends left. The second they were gone, Yuno messaged Sum. He told her he had finished designing her new office and sent over the coordinates, inviting her to come take a tour. As soon as she put her phone down, Sum's expression turned icy. She was clearly calculating her next move. Meanwhile, Ji-yoon was working with the high-level hacker to track Yuno's location. She had no idea that this hacker was actually a corrupt insider working at some company. These employees were using their internal access to leak customer data for cold, hard cash. At the same time, the police finally made a breakthrough. They linked Yuno to 8 women who had either gone missing or turned up dead. The police launched a raid on his place, but he was already gone. They found his hidden stash of phones, but Yuno was already in his car, fleeing the scene. As he drove, his remaining burner phones started blowing up with messages from strangers. Knowing the walls were closing in, he pulled over and threw every single phone into the river. He headed straight to some and confessed everything. He admitted he had used the app to bury countless people. He looked her in the eyes and told her that if he had met her first, he never would have become this monster. Some urged him to turn himself in and start over, but he just held her tight in silence. After a final, intimate night together, Yuno got dressed and vanished. Kim Sum told him, "I'll come find you tomorrow. I want to see that office you designed for me." Yuno, feeling like he still had her in his grasp, happily agreed before slipping away into the night. The next day, Kim Sum called Ji-yoon. She dropped a bombshell, admitting she had lied about everything because Yuno was just too important to her. She told Ji-yoon she was on her way to meet him. Ji-yoon was frantic, begging to know where they were meeting, terrified for her friend's life. But Sum just coldly hung up the phone. Ji-yoon immediately alerted her colleagues. The police began pinging Kim Sum's phone, fearing she was walking straight into a death trap. They scrambled their units and headed toward the location. Meanwhile, Yuno received a text from Sum saying she couldn't make it after all. He was desperate. He messaged back, begging her to come anyway, even if she was late, because he knew deep down that his time was running out. Suddenly, a video call from Sum popped up on his screen. The second he answered, the first words out of his mouth were, "I love you." On the screen, Sum looked back at him and asked, "Can you say that one more time?" Hearing her ask for his confession made him smile. He thought he had won her over completely, but in a split second, the romance turned into a bloodbath. A hand reached out from the shadows behind Yuno and slashed across his eyes. Blood sprayed everywhere, blinding him instantly. Before he could even process the pain, the blade sliced deep into his throat. Blood erupted as Yuno collapsed to the floor, gasping and gurgling, desperately trying to ask who was attacking him. Even as he lay there dying, he reached for his phone. On the screen, the image of Kim Sum was still there, calmly repeating the same question over and over. "Yuno, can you say that one more time?" She kept repeating it even after his last breath left his body. In reality, Kim Sum was right there in the room. She was the one holding the knife, the very same knife Yuno had given her as a gift. She stood over his body, cold and detached. It turns out, those ghosts of his victims that haunted his video calls earlier weren't real. They were high-tech AI deepfakes created by the director to distract and unhinge him. It was a psychological trap designed to leave him vulnerable for the final strike. Sum was 10 steps ahead of everyone. She had placed her own phone on a random vehicle and told the driver to circle the city, leading the police on a wild goose chase while she took care of business. Her motivation was simple. The moment she realized he had lured her to that building to be humiliated and assaulted, the love she felt turned into a calculated death sentence. After the life drained out of Yuno, Kim Sum walked back to her office. She sat down and started playing video games with her coworkers like it was just another Tuesday, as if she hadn't just ended a man's life. You see, Kim Sum's reaction wasn't an act of a cold-blooded killer. This was the reality of her condition. Her lack of empathy and social connection meant that to her, this was just a necessary task completed. It's hard for us to wrap our heads around why some, Yuno, or even Ji-yoon acted the way they did. But this is the dark reality of human nature. Psychological twists can happen to anyone at any time. So, keep your wits about you because if you aren't careful, a story like this could happen to you. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.